Okay, Greg, let's talk about the Phaedo some more. We have a passage here from 117a to 118a, which is text L of hour 24.
Yes, when I was writing up the last chapter, or as I like to call it, the last hour of the 24 hours in the book, Ancient Greek Hero in 24 Hours, and I got to the part where Plato's Phaedo, which is what we're looking at here, describes the last moments of Socrates. This is actually his moments of death. That's Phaedo 117a all the way through 118a. I just couldn't stop with the quotation. It just kept going on. There was no good place to stop because it was such a beautiful sequence of details that bring to a climax the extraordinary life of this extraordinary person. And from the get-go, that detail about trying to pour a libation to the dead by way of using the poison that has been apportioned to him, and how the executioner says, oh, no, you have to drink all of it. You can't waste any of it by pouring some of it into the ground. That already is so mystical, and it's so connected with the world of heroes, and how you would respect heroes in their afterlife by pouring libations to them as a way of communicating with them. It's almost as if Socrates is showing the way. This is how you communicate with me. But it turns out, no, you don't pour libations, you just continue the dialogue. And then even when it comes to how he makes the transition, he calls it the met oikesis at 117c, from this world to that other world, and how he hopes it is a fortunate one. That transition is, again, something that is very familiar to people who are thinking not only of worshiping heroes, but even venerating their own dead ancestors. So the language is very suggestive about how to keep mental connectivity with the person who's about to die. But then when it turns out that his own followers, Socrates' own followers, can't control their emotions, and they're weeping this way or that way or the other way, and how then Socrates says, you must not weep for me, you must have hēsukhiā, composure. That's already a state of mind that you expect the blessed dead to have, a state of serenity, which is what he wants his followers already to be psychically connected with, because that's the state that he is going to achieve, so he says. And so then they check their tears, and then sure enough, the signs of life go away. And then finally, the last words of Socrates, and I could talk about this forever, but I'll try to say it in a compressed way. The last words of Socrates, I think, kind of say it all. Don't forget to sacrifice a rooster to Asklepios. Well, we know that Asklepios was the number one hero who represented the idea of resurrection after death. Among the heroes he resurrected from death was Hippolytus, as in the Hippolytus of Euripides. And that was so threatening to the regime of the gods that they had to make sure that Asklepios himself dies. So Asklepios himself, as the perfect physician, has to have a death that then ushers in his status as a cult hero who helps other people achieve immortalization after death. So to me, the idea that you sacrifice a rooster to Asklepios immediately conjures up the way people actually worshipped Asklepios, which is you check into the place where Asklepios is worshipped. you would undergo an incubation, and then the morning after, you hope you'll be cured of whatever you were suffering from when you had gone to sleep. So if you sacrifice a rooster to Asklepios, what do you hear when you wake up? You hear another rooster. Mm-hmm. And for me, somehow that has to do with the fact that Socrates wants to keep the dialogue alive. I don't mean to be funny when I say this way, the old rooster dies, but the new rooster will
continue.
Will live on, and that is a beautiful sign of the immortalization of not so much Socrates, but the word initiated by Socrates. And so it's not quite what you'd expect of a cult hero. And even if Socrates had become a cult hero in the traditions of Plato's Academy with the passage of time, I think as far as the Phaedo as a work of Plato is concerned, it's not an emphasis on the body of Socrates, it's an emphasis on the word of Socrates, which is also our word, because whatever he leaves unsaid, we can keep talking about how by asking questions, trying to get answers.